Welcome back for another episode of SSD Mythbusters, where we talk all things Social Security disability law. And the way we do it is we present a myth each episode, and we present it to our in-house legal expert, our Social Security disability attorney of over 20 years, Josh Worley. Josh, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so this is kind of a fun one today because I'm curious to know about judges. We talk a lot about getting approved, these hearings, the whole process. And so I want to know, are judges like Simon Cowell? Is it just this, if they don't like you, you're going to get approved or not approved type of thing? So the myth today is if the judge doesn't like you, you're not getting approved.
All right, so let me address that. The bottom line is that is not true. Certainly a judge's perception of you and your credibility matters and will play a role in whether you get approved. But there's so many things that go into getting an approval. And so a judge cannot simply ignore medical records. So if you've got medical treatment and records from providers and specialists that prove your disability, then just because a judge does not like you, they cannot just deny your claim. Okay, and a judge is a deciding factor on your case. They decide the case, but then they are reviewed. Their decisions are reviewed as well. So they're not the end of the line, so to speak. There's someone that is reviewing their decisions to make sure that the decisions they're making are consistent with the facts. And so just because a judge doesn't like you doesn't mean that you're going to lose. I think it is interesting to people to learn, or for people to learn, that they're able to look up whatever judge is assigned to their case. If you are at a hearing level and you're assigned a particular judge, which you'll get that notice and you'll get the judge's name, you can look that judge's information up and find out what their approval rate is. We have a particular place on our website where you can type in the judge's name and it will immediately pop up what his approval rate is. You will find that judges' approval rates vary all over. I mean, they're all over the board. So you will see some that are very favorable, that have approval rates that are 70, 80%. And then you will see some on the opposite end of that spectrum that are 20% or 30%. So I feel like it's helpful for someone to look up what judge they have and what their approval rate is, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're getting into as you go into the hearing. The national average is right around 55%. So 55% of the cases at a hearing level get approved. And so certainly, it's a wide range of potential outcomes as far as approval rates go. And you should look that information up on our website and see what your particular judge is.
Yeah, and I've always found this to be interesting because in a lot of ways, it's kind of the luck of the draw, really. It's not regionally based. So if someone has a claim in New Mexico, they don't have a New Mexico judge necessarily. They might be somewhere else in the country. So you're just assigned a judge, and that may be a judge that's a little more favorable than another one.
Yeah, you have absolutely no control over the judge.
You can't strike a judge.
You cannot, you cannot strike. In other areas of law, if you have maybe some conflict, a lawsuit with a judge that you find that's not favorable, then you can, potentially do things to get a different judge assigned to your case. In Social Security disability cases, you don't have any control over that. You cannot strike a particular judge for a reason. You look up their approval rate and you say, oh, that's too low, I want somebody different. You can't say, give me a different judge.
Okay. Yeah. And when we say approval rate, what we're talking about is the percent of times that judge is approving someone for disability. So approval, not like how they're being reviewed, it's approving it from the cases that are before them, how many of them they approve for disability benefits.
That is exactly right. So just for math, if you've got 10 cases before a judge that is 70%, has a 70% approval rate, that means out of those 10 cases, that judge will approve 7 cases. In the alternative, someone that is a judge that's at 30% approves 3 of those 10 cases. So obviously a lot less.
Isn't it fair also, though? I think in the context of this conversation, it's fair to say judges are human beings. And so while they have medical records before them and they got to follow the law and they got to look at the facts, at the same time, they are making some subjective decisions. I mean, they're being asked to make a decision. And I think if someone is likable or highly credible, that is going to kind of bump it in their favor with a judge that, might just say, hey, I like this person. I don't think the judge is going to make that decision entirely, but the same goes the opposite. If you're going to come in and be a jerk or difficult or exaggerate your symptoms, these judges are humans and are emotional people and may say, you know what, if it's going to come to a tie, I'm going to give the tiebreaker to, I don't like this person or they were rude to me. So judges they're also human beings. So I think that is a factor as well.
They are, for sure. Even when you have a judge that is 30% approval, you can be successful on that case. You can absolutely win that case. Be likable. Do the things that you've got to do to give yourself a good chance of getting approved. Hire an attorney. Do those things to be successful, and it'll work out for you. So just because you get a low approval rating judge doesn't mean that you are not going to get approved. One other thing to keep in mind is that the hearing level is not the end of the road. There are additional levels of appeal beyond the hearing level. So there are judges, if you've got a really low approval rating judge, then you certainly want to make sure that you kind of get all your ducks lined up in a row leading up to a hearing, meaning you've got all your records submitted and you've been to your doctors like you need to be, so that in the event that a judge makes a bad decision, you have evidence to support the fact that you think he made a bad decision, and you've got a legit argument to that, and then you can hopefully get that decision reversed. So the hearing is not the end of the road.
I'll finish with this. I remember kind of a funny story you and I talked about that it was a real life one, where you had a client that was actually from New Mexico, but you had a judge that was out of the Northeast, and your client who was living in New Mexico really had either grown up or had kind of had a connection to the Northeast as well, a little bit of that kind of background. And he just connected with your judge that was otherwise a really tough judge. Mm-hmm. Your client just meshed really well with him. And so it's
exactly
there are many
right.
examples
exactly
like that.
Right. Yep. They just jived. I mean, they did really well together. The judge liked him because they just had some things in common, and it just worked.
Right. So there you have it. It's not going to be just the judge doesn't like you so you don't get approved. But as we've demonstrated, they got to follow the law. They even have review processes above them. So if they just had a personal issue with you, they can't just go rogue and say you can't get approved. And there are steps even beyond that can help you if they did. But at the same time, judges are not robots. They're human beings. And if you can connect, like we gave the one example of the judge out of the Northeast, sometimes that can be a good, helpful way of, if something's going to go in your favor, hey, why not do everything you can to connect and be kind to a judge and get them in your favor. Yeah. So, all right. So thanks, Josh. That's helpful. We'll keep doing more episodes like this. If you like the information and found it helpful, give us a follow. We're going to keep doing this. Also, if you want to talk with our team, we are here at the Injury and Disability Law Center. You can reach us at idlawcenter.com. We got a lot of helpful content on there for you if you want to keep learning about lots of areas of this area of the law. So, Josh, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time.